Presenters. So my name's Andrew Smales. I'm a director of Raiden AI, which represents Expert AI in Australia. I have about 30 years experience in data management. I first came across Expert AI about 10 years ago when researching the most effective way to extract information out of large amounts of unstructured data held by government and private organizations. Andrea Riccotto is a seasoned expert in AI industry, particularly in applying natural language understanding and automation technologies. In his business development role at Expert AI, Andrea leverages 20 years of experience in sales management within the financial service, IT, data, and marketing sector. His technical expertise includes developing and implementing AI-driven strategies that help organizations extract value and insights from unstructured data. So the brief agenda is the introduction. Andrea will give an introduction to Expert AI, then do his presentation, and then there'll be questions, and then there'll be information about the next webinar. So regulatory compliance is something that's growing importance in Australia with APRA and ATSIC heightening the oversight requirements of Australian companies. But there's also rapid technology change. And even brand value and customer trust is important, and non-compliance is going to attribute heavy fines. So it's very, very relevant for Australia. And so over to you, Andrea.
Thanks, Andrew. Good afternoon or good morning for someone joining from Europe. I'm taking the share of the screen so I can start to show what we have today. Okay, here we go. So a couple of slides to start the introduction into what we have defined the regulatory complexity. As Andrew said, in different regions, in different countries, and I would say globally, navigating the complexity of new regulations, new requirements coming from different sources has become clearly an issue, and we will see in a couple of minutes why. And from that perspective, AI can really help companies, in particular regulated companies like banking, finance, pharma, to cope with this increasing complexity, and at the end of the day, use AI in a safe way to manage those complexity and all the regulations challenges related. Today, we are going to see something that is more linked to the FSI, so the financial services and banks. But as we see some people joining from pharma, the overall messages here is try to get and adapt what you will see today also to your market. I mean, I will try to open the discussion as much as I can, but ideally what you will see today is something that can be clearly adapted to all the verticals and all the markets we can operate. So a couple of information about the market landscape. I mean, banks, and again, like pharma, like insurance, like energy and utilities, started to see an increasing complexity in risk and compliance. And this is mainly due to the one statistics that in this case is relevant for banks, but again, I'm pretty sure that can be adapted to other verticals. Basically, the number of changes of new requirements that a bank must deal with has increased from roughly 10 in 2004 to almost 200 today. So we are speaking of an increasing amount of new regulation, new documents, new ideally signals that companies have to look at. That has created an enormous impact in the compliance department, because if you are talking of something that has increased of 20 per in the last few years, I'm pretty sure that the compliance offices of our customers, of banks, insurance, and pharma has not increased of the same ratio. So from that perspective, Gen AI and traditional AI offers great opportunities to address those challenges and could enable banks and other companies to optimize these processes, and in particular, the overall regulatory management or watching. At the end of the day, the banks and the companies that successfully adopt Gen AI can for sure enhance their ability to manage the risk and work with compliance in a more efficient and effective way. The key words here is successfully, and we will see in a couple of minutes what does it mean work successfully and safely using Gen AI. If this is the scenario, Expert.ai has always worked to deliver enterprise AI solutions, mixing together technology, expertise, the capacity to deliver solutions in order to manage exactly this kind of mission critical or core processes, like could be the regulatory monitoring or watching. The reason is that we have been founded in 1989. We have a long history in using AI, so not only Gen AI, but also traditional AI and other mix of technologies that can help to scale and adopt an AI. And in this moment, with a team of over 200 people in States, in Europe, in Australia, we cover different verticals and different industries. So as we said, 1989, we have been established. Now the revenue of the company is roughly 32 million euros in the last audited financial years. And we have always worked with large corporations, government and agencies directly and through partners, like in this case, Andrew and his team, or other big, let's say, partners like the traditional consulting companies or system integrators. We are, by the way, listed on the Euronext Growth Milan market, which means that our financials, our things, let's say, are publicly available because we have, again, investor relation duties. As we say, long history in AI, we have tried to summarize here some of the main milestones of our history. I mean, I will not spend the whole hour looking into the slides, but just to say that since we have been born, we have been established, the company has worked with different techniques, with different technologies that in the overall AI journey has been part of the long history of AI. We started implementing knowledge graphs, semantic analysis that now is being globally recognized as a neurosymbolic capabilities that can help generative AI to work better and reduce hallucination. We have worked in automating processes, so starting from RPA and now into the new agentic AI world. And in the pure AI, we started using symbolic AI, we implemented machine learning projects, and recently we started to use large language models into our main projects. At the same time, we had always granted to our customer the data safety. We have experience in managing data, data quality. So long story short, this mix of technology is what we have used to work with companies in the world like Department of Defense in the United States, Dow Jones, Lloyd's of London, Standard & Poor's. So all main brands that have started with us to adopt safely and in a scaled way the overall artificial intelligence. This long journey clearly demonstrates one of the key differentiating point of our capabilities, which is the hybrid AI model. The hybrid AI has been recognized as something that clearly stands out from the crowd, so something that can differentiate our capabilities and our company. And this hybrid AI model is ideally the combination of the different main techniques that in AI you can use to implement the projects. Each technique has some peculiarities, has some main features, and the combination of the all techniques is what will grant you the greater versatility in model training, the better accuracy, and one key element that we will see in a few minutes in the demo, the possibility to explain, audit, and trace the results of the use of AI. That in case of regulatory monitoring is particularly important because if you are a compliance specialist and you are reviewing regulatory documents, to check the requirements, to check specific parts, AI can help you, but at the same time, you want to be sure that all the results could be clearly traced inside the documents, not just give a generic link to the document, but trace paragraphs by paragraphs, articles by articles, where the requirements the AI has identified came from. We work in 6 different verticals. You see here the main one. One thing that all of these verticals has in common is that they are all regulated markets with an increasing amount of regulation in the last few years, as we have seen in the previous slides, but at the same time with some core processes, with some mission critical processes that require the use of AI to scale and to make those kind of companies quite efficient and competitive. So we will be talking today of banking, but as I said, healthcare, insurance, government intelligence, they are all verticals where AI can be adopted, but our vision is okay, let's do it, but in a safer way and in a way that can be controlled and monitored. Our key portfolio of customer, with some good references that if you're interested in, we can explore and deep dive with the help of, again, of Andrew and the expert.ai Australia team. Coming to the main use case of today, let's start by saying that the overall capabilities of expert.ai now can serve 3 different area of application. We can use AI for the traditional process automation applications, and in this case, the AI would help to make those processes more intelligent. And in this case, we are talking of enabler that can work on complex documents when you have to extract specific information or specific data from those documents. And in this case, our core technology can be integrated with traditional process tools like RPAs, like workflow management, in order to, again, scale and improve the level of automation. The second one is the hexagon that we will explore a bit more today, is the use of AI for knowledge discovery, either to analyze knowledge bases, like, for example, a collection of new regulations of documents, in order to retrieve and analyze the insights contained in those documents. Today, we will see, for example, how to extract and analyze the requirements coming from a regulation document. Last but not least, the possibility to use AI to facilitate the interaction between a company and their users. Internal users, external users, customers, citizens. So all the people that in some ways have to interact with the company, requesting information, asking for specific processes. So all those kind of interactions that during the last few years have completely moved from the phone calls to new digital assets like chatbot, WhatsApp, and digital channels. Let's now move more into the solution that we are going to see today. Recently, expert.ai has announced what we have defined the ADNI suite. ADNI is an ancient Greek that means to know, to understand, to comprehend. And with this name, we are trying to identify a set of solutions that have been, first of all, implemented. So we have track records on implementing those kind of solutions. But at the same time, it's a set of solutions that solve core problems of our customers and can scale in order to transform data into something that is more accessible and more knowledgeable. So starting from a deep understanding of the 6 markets we have seen in the previous slides, ADNI Suite is an ecosystem where we have plugged in all the experiences and all the capabilities that we can use in order to use AI and scale and adopt AI in a better way. This suite now includes different applications, different use cases, and one of those that we are going to explore now is what we have defined regulatory tracking management. So the use of AI to track all the different requirements, all the different regulations that could emerge and could have an impact on the processes of specific companies. The regulatory monitoring expert AI capabilities covers ideally 5 pain points, or let's say 5 challenges that companies need to address in this specific vertical. First of all is the increasing of operational efficiency. So something that could help compliance team, legal team to get the right information at the right time. For example, whether new regulation has been published and is available and could start to generate effect for the market. Second step is the analysis. So once I receive the notification that a new regulation has been published, I want to start to analyze that document and check all the different pieces and segments that compose the overall regulation. I can expand the coverage, for example, looking for sanctions, looking for other laws or specific information that are linked to the document I'm viewing. I can support the change management decision because if a new requirement emerges and it's strictly impacting on my business, this could require an overall change management process in order to fast adapt that requirements to the main activities of the company. And last but not least, mitigate the sanctions risk, meaning that viewing the sanctions, viewing the key elements linked to the applicability of the sanctions, I can help and monitor how to reduce those sanctions and how the overall requirements could be adapted again to avoid the payment of sanctions. Let's have a look to the solution before moving to the demo and see how it works. So the solution has been designed, first of all, to monitor different sources. Today, we are going to see a very specific collection to make the overall demo faster and effective. But generally speaking, we can intercept, we can detect a new regulation and new weak signals published on different sources. The regulatory websites, the court sentences, regulatory laws, open sources, so all those kind of channels that could contain what our customers are looking and may have an impact on the core processes of the company. Once the document or the new regulation has been crawled and detected, then start the AI analysis, the agentic AI analysis through our platform that we have called Insight Discovery. With Insight Discovery, particularly adapted for regulatory monitoring, we can start to analyze the new regulations, classifying it at extract different topics contained in the original document. And at the end of the process, make the so-called gap impact analysis. What is a gap impact analysis? Basically, is the matching between the new regulation that have been analyzed on the original new regulations and the internal policies in place inside the company. So let's imagine that we are today, a new regulation is published on a regulatory website. I have my internal policy, my internal procedures, and the first things I want to check is if the regulation contained in the document is compliant with my internal procedures and my internal processes. In doing that, the AI will match the two documents, the two set of documents, and will create automatically a sort of first draft of impact analysis. Very important here, the system will not decide, will not write for you the new regulation, and will not tell you how to do it. The AI will strictly help you to detect the gaps and help you to generate and to check how to work safely and fast in the new, for example, in a new draft of the new regulations of the new internal policies. All these parts of the overall processes can be realized with different AI techniques. So I will not deep dive too much here, but ideally it's the combination of the different techniques that we have defined, hybrid, that could allow the overall process work safely and effectively. So some part are symbolic logics, so deterministic or neuro-semantic analysis. Some others is machine learning. Some others is the safe use of large language model and generative AI to create, for example, the summary or the overall analysis. So too many slides. Now let's move to the application to see how it works. I will use a couple of implementations. So I will move through two different solutions in the next few minutes, just to explain how the overall process has been right now implemented and works. So I'm entering right now into the solution. This is an extract, a stage dev of a solution we have implemented for a customer. And for the demo of today, I've just isolated the one single corpora, so one single source that I will be using in order to demonstrate how the overall process works. In this case, we are using Eurlex with documents in English, which is one of the websites, one of the aggregator of new laws that we can connect to the system. Again, as we said in the slide, we can imagine to integrate different other sources, Central Bank of Europe, Bank of Australia, court sentences, documents. So whatever is the need that you might have to analyze and the sources you want to adapt, again, we can imagine to create the channel to ingest and crawl documents, and we can again put into the system new documents and new information. In this simple environment, again, I'm using Eurlex, and in this first initial page, I could start to see which are the main topics of this first collection. For example, one of the main arguments of this collection is, in this moment, the Anti-Money Laundering or Counter-Terrorism Financing Act. We see something related to cybersecurity, digital payments, and open banking. So these are a quick summary of the main topics contained in the collection, in the corpora I'm analyzing. A second way to look at the solution is moving into a timeline. In this case, I've selected the anti-money laundering topic, and the system will give me a kind of timeline of the main regulation that have been published, so date of application, which means the date of being effective, and the different date in which the system have detected new regulation and potential future dates where the overall regulation will be clearly live. So it will start to generate effects, for example, sanctions. If I click here on the anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism, we see that the system has filtered 7 different documents on the original corpora. On your left, you will have a way to navigate through the filtering corpora. For example, you could be interested in the impacted legislation, if there are some specific sanctions and which type, if there are some Eurovoc concept. Eurovoc is a standard taxonomy being used in the European Union to classify the topics contained in the documents, but we can use any specific ontologies or taxonomy our customer want to implement in the system. So I chose this topic, and for example, one of the regulation I could be interested in is this one. It's a recent regulation, the 1624, that clearly changed in the last few weeks the way in which banks have to implement anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing. Clicking here, the system will, first of all, create for me a summary. So the key points, who it applies to, the pillars, the risk management, the pillars with all the topics contained, exclusions, and generally speaking, the key snapshot in a nutshell that I need to know when I start to look at this new regulation. I see a timeline again, document date, date of publication, and date of effect. And I can switch to the full document in case I would be interested in navigating the original document that's been released on the web. I can also link, in this case, to the official link of the regulation website in case I want to analyze more in depth the document. Coming back here, I can navigate the document through the different article. I can check where the date of effect, the document date, the issuing body are being reported, and I can link on all the impacted legislation. These are all different regulations that I can link to in order to check where in the document this information is contained. If we look on the right, we have the core passages, the core part in the overall regulations analysis. So again, let's imagine that this is a new regulation that has been published yesterday. I've been notified that this new regulation is live, and the first question I could ask myself is, please help me to identify all the requirements included in the document. These requirements are 366, and in this demo environment is not available, but there is a feature that could give me the possibility to filter and reduce this number of requirements. So ideally, the system would help a compliance specialist to see one by one where the specific requirements are and check at a very atomic level where I may find the information I'm looking for. But, for example, if if the user is a head of compliance, for example, he or she could be interested in creating an executive summary of this new regulation because has to make a presentation to the board. In that case, we can reduce the number of requirements to just a summary or a list of the most 10 relevant ones, or the key messages, again, contained in the regulation. So long story short, here we have the single requirements, but we can also implement a feature that could reduce and summarize the different requirements contained in the document. When I click on the single requirement, the system will help me to understand where in the document I've found that specific requirements. And I can also move inside the single requirements in order to, single article, sorry, in order to see all the other requirements contained in the document itself. So in this case, I should have done something wrong here. Okay, let's see if I can start back to. Okay, moving to the Zoom, I should have done something wrong, but I can, generally speaking, I can navigate from documents to the list of requirements and list of requirements and documents. So this view is ideally in the double way. So I can navigate the original documents, or I can navigate through the different requirements. At the same time, I can check and see inside the documents if there are some sanctions and where they are reported. If there are other documents seated included in a collection, so I can imagine to navigate inside my corpora through different documents that are linked together. So starting from this initial regulation, I can check if, for example, the previous release, the previous version of that document is available. And for example, I can link to the previous document in order to see the differences or check where the main, the new requirements, for example, emerged. Let's come back here to the requirements and imagine to start the so-called verification. So I can click on the 366 requirements, and I can imagine to compare this new regulation with my internal collection of policies related to anti-money laundering. I start the analysis, and the system will immediately compare the requirements I've identified here with the policies contained in my internal policies repository. The final result, and we will see this also in a few seconds in another environment, is checking where some problems could emerge. For example, this requirement here, with the communication of any planned change to the information communicated under paragraph 1, 2, and so on, has been judged as not compliant because the internal procedures that in the meanwhile have opened on my right do not explicitly mention communicated planned changes to the supervisor of the home member state, or at least 1 month in advance. So what we are doing, we have extracted one requirement. We have compared this requirement with my internal set of policies, and the system has suggested that this new requirement is not compliant because in my set of internal policies, this specific argument is not being mentioned. And moving here, I can check where that information came from. So I can see, for example, in this part here, that the system has detected specific information, a specific part of the document that could be related to this requirement, but is not complete, is not fully comparable to the original document that contains the new regulations. I can move also in other sections of the documents because, for example, the system may detect that these requirements here, this topic could be explicitly mentioned in different part of the overall collection of procedures. So I can check again, I can review, I always have the traceability of where that specific information came from in order to grant the full traceability and explainability inside the document. This is a red one. For example, I can check a green one. So in this case, one of the requirements was comply with the national rules of the member state in which they are established. And in this case, the system has judged this this requirement as compliant because in the internal measures of the anti-money laundering policies is clearly mentioned that the framework of internal policies is linked to the all applicable anti-money laundering requirements. And again, in this case, I can move and check where that specific information came from. And we see here the confirmation that that requirement is okay because in my internal policy is clearly mentioned that the group strives to adhere to all applicable anti-money laundering laws, regulations, and so on. Okay, I have the results for all the 360C requirements, and after I checked, after I seen how the single requirements would apply, I can extract a summary of all the information contained, and we will see now in a different demo how this is can be created and is applicable. Okay. I'm just checking if now the overall requirements is working. Okay. Perfect. Now let's see a different environment, a different demo that is very similar to this one, but is another way, another combination of user experience, user interface in order to check how the overall process works. So similar scenario here, but a bit more simple. So in this case, the system is giving me evidence of 7 new regulations. And for example, imagine that one of these new regulation is the Digital Operation Resilience Act, that is a new regulation that in European Union has been started to be effective from January this year, and is heavily impacting all the banks with new requirements for cybersecurity, resilience, and management of data of the banks. I've done the same things as we have seen in the previous demo, so 218 requirements being is isolated. I can start the verification of all the requirements, and in this case, I will be using a data security management collection of information, of documents. I run the verification, and one small difference that we see here is that in this version of the demo, I can also filter the good ones and not compliant ones. So I can check immediately which requirements are absent and which are, for example, fully present. I can navigate through the absent, see where the original requirements was mentioned in the document. So members of the management body of the financial entity should actively keep up to date with sufficient knowledge and skills and so on. And in this case, I can do the similar things that we have seen in the previous demo. So I have a red flag here because in this case, the system is telling me that there is no explicit mention of the management body actively keeping up to date with sufficient knowledge and skills and so on. Compared to the previous demo, in this environment, we have also implemented a good Q&A bot. So in this case, I can ask, what should I do to make my internal policies compliant with the original regulation? So the idea here is to give the possibility to the compliance specialist to make question also for navigating the original document, and have a kind of co-pilot assistant that could suggest or propose the modification needed to be compliant with the new requirements. So in this case, the system is suggesting me to implement a corporate organizational model that include policies, procedures, guidelines, and blah, blah, blah. So to close the overall analysis, sorry, I promised also to show you this one. This one is the extraction of all requirements that have been identified in the document. Here we go. Enable editing, perfect. So this is a feature available in this second demo, but again, it could be implemented in any specific environment. And in this case, the system is helping me to extract the document name, the different requirements. So I have the 218 different requirements I identified in the text, and the overall judgment. So if the outcome is positive or negative, and the reason why the system has detected the specific requirements as compliant or not compliant. Okay. So I will stop here in order to leave some minutes for the questions. So just to summarize, in the two demo, what we have seen is the overall application of the regulatory monitoring processes using AI. So we have seen how we can detect regulation starting from different sources, from different websites, for example, how we can analyze those documents, classifying, extracting information, and adding them to a repository of new regulations. And then we have seen the comparison with the internal policy in order to generate a kind of abstract, a kind of gap impact analysis in order to help compliance specialists to quickly check what has to be implemented and what is missing in order to avoid sanctions and risks. I stop here and leave to you, Andrew, for any questions or any comments.
Yeah, I should have started. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A. So there's one question or a couple of questions around how easy can it be adapted to Australian conditions and terminology.
Good question.
Yeah, semantic.
Good question. We can imagine, as we have seen here, to implement any specific corpora, any specific collection, websites that belongs to Australia territory. So if you want to monitor, for example, Bank of Australia new regulation or any specific entities in Australia that publishes new regulations, new documents, we can again implement a connection here in order to crawl and extract documents that are strictly related to your territory.
Okay. So what's the sort of return on investment that companies get by implementing such a solution?
Sorry, Andrew, I missed the first.
What's the return on investment? What's
sure.
The outcome, from companies investing in it?
The return of investment can be measured in 3 different ways, in my opinion. The first one is implementing a kind of system that could help to avoid sanctions, because one of the main risks when a new regulation is being published and new requirements emerge is that I'm not able to immediately comply with those new requirements, and I could be subject to sanctions. In the last few years, there is an emerging trend of companies in different markets being sanctioned because they simply did not adhere on time to new requirements. Second step is the possibility to automate internally the first part of the analysis of new documents. So one of the key challenges, and we have seen the evidence in the very, very first slides, is that today, and this is valid for all verticals, all regions, so it's a global trend, the number of new regulations, the new requirements has dramatically increased, which means that compliance specialists read documents every day. They read external documents, they read internal documents, they try to check immediately where the discrepancies or the differences are. And this is requires an enormous amount of time in order to perform this activity effectively. Third point, I would say, is the possibility to use external consultant in the right way. So I can, for example, decide to spend my budget for compliance or convince the board to invest in this tool because, for example, if I'm spending today 1 million euros with external legal advisor or external consultant that can help me to make this job effectively, this amount can be reduced, but it's also benefit for the external companies because they could be involved in a very high-level task. So not just take a document, extract the requirements, and so on. But I have analyzed the documents, I've seen the new requirements, I know that I'm not compliant here, so Mr. Consultant, please help me to draft a new processes that contain these 4 points. So reducing timeline, avoiding sanctions, and a better use, let's say, of money of the compliance team.
Okay, thanks. So one last question: is this provided as a service, or is it installed in house on infrastructure? There's one part of it is some of the documents are very public, but others are very private.
Sure.
Sensitive.
Sure. Generally speaking, we have some customers, in particular in healthcare and pharma, that prefer to implement this solution completely in-house, so on-prem, and we can manage. So we can install the overall system on a dedicated instance of our customers, or again, 100% on-prem on their virtual machines. Or we have customers that prefer to use it as a SaaS model because, for example, they want to monitor a huge number of sources. So we have customers monitoring 100 different websites all over the world. In that case, we are using our core system that, very important for the gap impact, is segregated. So even if the internal policies are not let's say, so sensitive as other documents, but anyway contain specific information of the single company. In that case, this part is absolutely segregated. So for sure, the company, all the company will see only their internal policies and will see all the documents being published by the different sources.
Hey, thanks. Well, if there are no other questions, we might close the webinar. And thank you, Andrea. Thank you very much. And so just for if people might be interested in seeing the next webinar we're going to run in May, which is it's on the managing complex processes, but focused on clinical trials as an example. And so that'll be in May. And at the end of this webinar, the registration page should pop up if you want to register straight away. So if you have any questions, please get in touch. And thank you, everybody. Thanks, Andrea.
Sure, Andrew. Thanks to everyone for attending.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.